Good morning, this is Pam, Flower Patch Farmhouse, and today we're going on a tour of the front entrance garden. I've done a lot of work this last couple of weeks up here, and I know you'll enjoy the progress. Well, at least I know I do. So let's get looking at the garden, and you can enjoy also my favorite DIY I have done this year. So let's get touring. This is our front garden tour for the first week of July. Now, basically, this is really the 9th, so I'm a little behind on this tour, but it still works. So here's where we normally start. This is right in front of my house, the front porch, and here are the two clematis that were in such beautiful full bloom the 1st of June, and in that video. And I have been deadheading it so that when it does rebloom, which will be closer to fall, it'll be beautiful. And the deadheading does promote or help it to bloom again. Now these are type 2, the pruning group 2 clematis, and in my side garden video I just uploaded this week, you'll see my group 3 that I did a video on how to prune and how full and lush it is, and it blooms from now on through September. So be sure and go and watch that. You would just be amazed at how that looks compared to where I chopped it in the early spring. All right, so here's the front garden. This area really has been ignored for right now because it's going okay, but in the containers here I have put my dahlias. I have 4 containers of dahlias. I do have a video coming up on how I plant dahlias in containers, and I'm going to update that throughout the season with how they're doing, because the voles and gophers ate all my dahlias last year. So I'm having to put them in containers, and they're doing great. They're loving it. I have up here a hanging basket of petunias. These 2 baskets were seed starts. They had petunias in them last year. I just threw them with their soil in them into the greenhouse before the first freeze and left them. And they had produced seeds and dropped them into the container, and then I got new petunias for free. All I did is come when it was warming up, I watered them, and voila, free petunias, as well as some alyssum. I'm going to get up closer to those so you can really see them. Aren't they just gorgeous? I love these purples. There was a white one. Oh, it's kind of faded now. Let me see if I can show you. It's faded now. It's going white. But this one was white with a purple center, and it was really pretty. And it looks like this one right here, oh, might be similar. And it's so funny because it's on the same plant. Here's this, and here's this, and it's the same plant, but one flower was just a gorgeous white with a purple center. It was just amazing. I loved it. And you can see over in this container, this container has one of my wave petunias in it. This is purple wave. I love wave petunias. Now these I will have to maintain with deadheading. I need to come out and pinch off all the dead blooms so they don't go to seed yet. I'll let them go to seed come fall, and that way I'll get more next year for free. But I have these on a shepherd's hook hanging out here in the middle of my dahlia bed, or my containers full of dahlias. And the soil around it that I had told you I had weeded. It still needs to be weeded again because I've been watering. But I'm going to plant a ground cover in here, I think, for now, to keep it covered and, you know, looking pretty, and the gophers won't bother it. So let's move on to right over here. Down here I have, this is a cheap tomato cage I got at the garden center last year, and I turned it upside down and put a flower pot on top, and I have my sweet peas growing up it. It makes a good trellis for those. I just hooked it to the ground so it would be more stable with wire I made into little garden staples, kind of. And there's the pot on top. And I want to show you, I want to get up close to something here. You see these purple flowers? They're just starting. That is Verbena boniceros. These are seed grown, gorgeous. They'll reseed. I thought I had lost them. I thought they hadn't made it through the winter, and I was wrong. They did, and they are just getting started, and I'm loving them already. I know the pollinators will love them, and it's just a win-win. And the seeds were given to me by a friend, so basically a free plant. I love gardening on a budget, and starting seeds is just a really budget-friendly way to get a beautiful garden. And it's not a hybrid, it's the real deal, so you really get the pollinators on it because it has a good concentration of nectar. Some plants, the super hybrids that are so hotly popular right now, do not have a good nectar type. It's kind of like feeding your kids junk food all the time. So it's a good to have native plants as well as plants that aren't super hybridized. This is my butterfly bush. Now this thing is so popular, sorry the sky's kind of blowing it out, with the hummingbirds, the bees, and the butterflies. They call it butterfly bush for a reason. Now this variety I think is black knight, but I've heard that some say they spread and they get invasive. I've never had this spread ever, and it could be because I deadhead it so well, but it's just funny. I don't have any issue if it's spreading anywhere. Up here is between the road and my front garden, and I've got daisies growing, and my European rose that was blooming so beautifully in the last video needs to be deadheaded, and it will rebloom. And up there is my Kirsten Polson rose. It's a single, it's a vintage rose. I have some starts of this. If you don't know how to start roses, I have a whole video on taking cuttings and starting roses. The vintage roses are a perfect choice because they are much easier to root than most other roses. Let's move on. Over here, I have a Delphinium. This is not the English Delphinium like I have in the back. This one is a different type. I don't even remember the name, but it's still pretty. It just doesn't bloom as thickly together. The blossoms aren't as thick together as the English Delphiniums. Behind it and beside the stone pillar is my Roseanne geranium. And that gets quite tall and lanky, but the blooms are just gorgeous. And over here is, growing along the wall, is my petal pusher rose. It's a ground cover rose, small, stays short, but these bloom all summer long too. They have faded out with the heat that we've had. They're usually more of a fuchsia pink, but they rebloom just beautifully. I'll cut these back, and I mean just deadhead them, and then they will reflush again. That's those roses. And I've gotten a bunch of my roses finally put into the tubs I bought at Tractor Supply. And I showed you in my last front garden video, entrance garden. And now I'm getting my roses put in them. This one is Aglaea. Let's get up close. This one is Aglaea. I have two in this container. One is an own root rose, and the other one is grafted. And they'll grow up into this pot just fine. I prefer own root roses just because if I have freak freezes and the roses die back to the ground, they will come true from the root. And that's something that I have to think about here in the mountains because we can go from 80 degrees one day to 10 degrees the next. And it has happened, and it wiped out several of my roses. But the own root roses grew back, and that is why I love them. My Eden rose, hopefully the glare of the sun won't throw this into too much shadow. I don't have an ND filter on this camera. I need a good vlogging camera, but save them for that. Anyways, here is my Eden. It's fading. I need to deadhead it, but it's already got new growth on it. In a few weeks, it'll be full of blooms again. The first flush is the best. So let me get around here. Now this section over here is what has the most progress that I can share with you. And first of all, let me set this down. I've got this on my tripod and I'm carrying it, so that's why it's so weird. So the black-eyed Susans, these are self-seeded, so I just let them grow here because they're really pretty. Behind it, you can see another barrel. And that one has my, the white rose, it is iceberg. I love that thing. And this one is the bush, not the climber. The climber I have in back, and it just blooms so pretty. I love it. And then I have Glamis Castle, which is a white David Austin rose in the same barrel. I want them to bloom together. And right along here, you can see the progress. Hopefully the sun's not throwing it too much into shadow. But you see the wall my husband built for me. This was a rock wall that had crumbled, and he put these blocks in. And then I got my barrels planted. So this first one is all red roses. It's L.D. Braithwaite and Darcy Bussell. And then the next one is Hyde Hall. So there'll be pink roses in that. I don't know if I'm pointing in the right direction. Right there, that one. And then the last one, this one right down here, is yellow roses. It is my Graham Thomas and my Golden Celebration David Austin roses. So I just got these done this week, and the area below I have started to put in some Russian sage that gets pretty tall, and I also have a salvia in there, but I think I'm going to move it. But I have, you see the little white rose right here? This is a ground cover rose, and I'm going to train it along the front edge, and it just blooms prolifically. But I wanted to share something that is like the highlight of this entrance garden. So let's go this way, and you can get a shot of it. I have it going. We'll get closer. But remember before I said we were going to put a pond here? Well, I knew I would have to wait a long time to get a pond dug, and I can't dig it. This is very rocky back here because of the backfill from the block wall. So I decided to scrounge around my garden and find a bunch of stuff to build my own waterfall fountain. And I'm going to walk you up there and take you along to see it right now. I am going to explain really quickly that this down here in front of the block wall is still a work in progress. I focused above, and now I'm going to plant below. I have a lot of catmint, nepeta that I grew from seed, quite a bit of it. I'm going to have like a hedge of that here. I love big blocks of color, and then I will see what else I can put in here with it. But it only gets about 2 feet tall, so it won't come up too far and obscure the barrels in the planting above. But that's the goal for there. I just have to dig out these iris and what have you. I will still interplant with iris too, because that's my big spring bloomer. So let's get up close to my fountain, and you can really check it out. Now here it is. Don't you love it? Now I'll get over here as best I can and see if I can explain my pieces. And so up here is a watering can. I just take the tip off, the watering tip. They call that a rosebud. And so that it had a good flow coming to this watering can. I had gotten this at Home Depot years and years ago. This one really works well because the spout starts at the bottom, so the pressure builds quickly. This one, the spout's closer to the top. But it still works. But you see, as this comes in, it's overflowing the top. It still goes down. This is an old wheelbarrow that I had. It's a metal wheelbarrow. And I've always loved it, and it's perfect for this. And this is a galvanized tub that I had already. And this one I had bought at Tractor Supply. And the pump was given to me by a client when I had my cleaning business. And they were cleaning out the garage, had a pond kit. So I don't know how much the pumps go for, but it's a good sized pump to get that good heavy flow of water. It's probably a little bit pricier pump. But anyway, so I put in some wire vine. This is just a piece I got off another plant I had. I popped in a pot, and it's just taken off. Feels like it needs some water. And this pretty little thing, I should get up close for you. This is a cross between a calibrachoa and a petunia. And they call it petacoa or something. And so far I am loving it. This spot gets a little bit more shade than most petunias could take, but calibrachoas can take a little more shade, so I was hoping it would do well here, and it's doing great. So behind it, let me get behind, the camera so I can make sure everything's in focus for you. Behind it, I put my potted Japanese maples are right along the wall here to kind of provide a division between the driveway and this area. And so I put my potted Japanese maples there. I also have a sweet olive right in the pot down below, and I just potted up in the larger container, so it's just getting going. And along here, let me swing my camera down. I just cleaned this out. This stuff was here, but it was just overtaken with weeds. My orange bucket here I put up because I had planted a delphinium. Let me move it. I planted a delphinium down there, and I was shading it because we were getting very hot temperatures, and it needs to get started, or a good healthy start, before it takes that kind of heat. And so far, my little bucket trick is working. So I have a soaker hose along here, and I planted, this is some ageratum. I started from seed. I'm really late getting a lot of my seedlings out of my greenhouse and into the ground. I've been so crazy busy trying to get this front redone. This whole, it wouldn't have taken me so long, but I've just redone this entire entrance garden, and it's taking me a lot longer than I anticipated. But I'm enjoying it. Every day I get out here, and there's sections I just tackle. I have 10 minutes, I tackle it, and I can walk away and feel good about getting that section done. I've also been working in the secret garden, so you can see where I'm spreading myself out. But once this is set up, like the delphiniums will come back every year, I have this likeness, which is like the rose campion, except this one is white. Let me see if I can get my finger at it. There's one right there and one over there. And this is white with the pink center. They come back every year. Behind it is a seedling, two seedlings of cosmos, and they've kind of flopped over. I need to prop them back up. But I'm filling in with fresh compost all in here because the soil has sank, and just getting it going. So I'm enjoying trying to design this as I set it up. Right here is my Aglaea Daisy, which is just opening up. Let me get up close to that for you. Isn't that gorgeous? Just as frilly as can be. Look at that. So pretty. And I'll deadhead. It'll continue to bloom. The first bloom is, of course, the biggest, and then it just sporadically blooms. You can see down below there's a bunch of buds. But if I'm diligent about deadheading, I'll get a long bloom time from it. And it gets quite tall, so this is a great backdrop between here and there. And when the delphiniums come up, they'll be even thicker. I'm going to plant more alongside, like where the cosmos are, and that will provide a backdrop too between the area I don't want seen and my front entrance garden. Okay, I'm going to turn around and we will look at more stuff along the other side. And here's the section that still needs working on. The section I just showed you that was all cleared looked like this last week. So that's where my iris were. Those I will give them until August so they can conserve energy for bloom next year. Then I'll dig them up and transplant them. I'll either spread them out in here or move them to the front bed or wherever I want. So they bloomed really pretty. I have more down along here that struggled, and I don't know why. So I did find a gopher tunnel, so they could have been nibbled on by the gopher. Those will get transplanted, and I'm going to start building some raised beds with some cedar fence boards that are lined so that I could put a lot of stuff out and stop worrying about the gophers, because repellents, nothing has really worked. I haven't tried traps. I guess I could try traps, but they have just the last 2 years devastated my plants, and I need to get things protected so that I can stop worrying about it. So basically, I think I covered the whole front garden. Hopefully I didn't get this too long showing you everything, but I wanted to really show you my fountain, and I just love working out here while it's running. So basically, that's the front entrance garden and the progress I have made. And it probably doesn't look like a lot, but if you go back and review the older videos, you probably could tell how much it has come along. So I think that's all for today in the front entrance garden. I hope you enjoyed it.